Everybody find a seat. Whoa! And the voice came from on high. All right, everybody in the lobby, y'all come in now. And here we go. We're going to wind this up with Age of the Earth. And this is a good subject. This is a lot of fun to talk about. And I have fun on this. Age of the Earth, let's talk about it. I'm going to start off with a long science quote, so hang in there, please. I know you're already dazed from lunch, but here we go. Check this out. The most widely used mutation rate for non-coding human, that means mitochondrial DNA, relies on the estimate of the date when humans and chimpanzees shared a common ancestor, taken to be 5 million years ago. But a few studies have begun to suggest that those mutation rates are actually much faster. Regardless of the cause, evolutionists are most concerned about the effect of a faster mutation rate. Researchers have calculated that mitochondrial Eve, the woman whose mitochondrial DNA was ancestral to all living people, lived 1 to 200,000 years ago in Africa. That's what they thought. But then they used this new thing, and it says, using the new clock, she would be a mere 6,000 years old. No one thinks that's the case. Isn't that strange? When they just try basic science and go with rates that they can see, and by George, they came out with the wrong answer. So anyway, no one thinks that's the case. So how old are things? Let's talk about how old things are. It all has, everything is as old as dirt. Age issues, let's talk about that. So the two bigger problems for creationists is, we talked about fossil order, but radiometric dating. Okay, colors are different. Here we go. Archbishop James Ussher was the first one to come up with a date for creation. Here it is. He thought that God started creating the world on Sunday, October 29, 4004 BC at 9 o'clock in the morning. So he had a pretty precise date. We laugh a little bit at that kind of accuracy, precision. Let's take a look. And humanism is atheism, rejects the idea of texts of allegedly divine origin. Okay, so the Bible's not going to help us, they think. Remember what this guy said, uniformitarianism, everything is always by concurrently observable processes, definitely not a flood. So that's what they go by. In other words, everything, whether it's tree rings can only mean 1 year each, because that's what we think now, that's what they mean now. They can never be growth spurts that are faster. Layers of ice in the ice shelf in Greenland, and we measure those things. They have a freeze-refreeze cycle. That's usually a year. So that must mean that every single freeze cycle we see in the ice is going to be 1 year. Again, they can't get past that model. So take a look at this. This is, anybody know where that is? That's England. Anybody have a guess as to what that is? Nope. Hadrian's Wall, very good. Hadrian's Wall, built by the Romans in about the 2nd century. Now take a look at it, and the erosions clearly knocked this poor thing down quite a bit. The Brits in Darwin's day looked back and said, that's halfway back to the flood. Look at how much that's down. But then when you look at mountains like this in England, look at how eroded that is. Surely it's much older than the age we set for the flood. So again, they're going with currently observable rates of erosion. Now, how old is the Earth? Charles Lyell, who wrote Principles of Geology, that's the book that Darwin had as he took the voyage, he imagined the Earth to be perhaps millions of years old, maybe 1 or 2 million years. Okay, well, that's William Baron Kelvin came along and estimated that the age of the Earth was somewhere between 20 and 40 million years old. It couldn't be older because the Earth isn't warm enough. Oh, well then Ernest Rutherford came along and said, oh no, there's been atomic decay in the Earth, and that accounts for heat, and that would have kept the Earth warmer, so the Earth is older, and it's even older than that. Well, currently accepted age of the Earth is what? Anybody know? Currently accepted age of the Earth. You're starting to talk real numbers now. Okay. 4.5 is close. 4.55 billion years old. That's a currently observable, or that's what they think. Now, incidentally, how old is the universe? 13 plus, very good. 13.73. Okay, that's how old the universe is. Well, that's what they say. So let's take a look. What is the Bible for evolutionists? Remember, I already told you this. What is it? Thank you. Somebody's listening. Geologic column, very good. Now, when you look at the geologic column, supposedly these things have taken place in the past using the standard model. Remember I told you about the immediate showing up of fossil life with all the different kinds of critters immediately. But you also have supposedly these developments, this is what they say. And people appear that we got several major extinctions, including the dinosaur extinction there. So there's a number of these things are gone now, and we agree with that. Lots of animals no longer with us. Speak to the earth and it will teach you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done that? So let's speak to the earth and see if the earth tells us a few things. Incidentally, that quote was on the lobby wall at Drumheller, Canada, where the Royal Tyrrell Museum is. That's their dinosaur museum. That's a Canadians' big-time dinosaur museum. That's right where they find them. And that was on the lobby, this Job quote. And I thought, well, how nice. A little tip of the hat for people who believe in the Bible. That's kind of nice of them. Next time I went, it was gone. Oh, well. Maybe pressure. Who knows? So let's speak to the earth. Now, again, how did he come up with such a precise date for the age of the world? It's very simple. The book of Genesis is extremely interested in chronology. It is. In fact, it records things with greater accuracy than some other books seem to worry about. I'm going to let you read a little Hebrew, so you're going to know some Hebrew and impress your friends. Now, Hebrew reads from the right to the left. Did you know that? Reads from the right to the left, just like Arabic, right to the left. That's the first word in the Bible right there. And that's pronounced from going here, Bereshit. Bereshit. Whoops, that should be over here. So the font does get switched around when we go to the church computer. But anyway, it means this, Bereshit. So you're going to say that word with me right now. Here we go. Bereshit. What kind of a hard T? Bereshit. All right. You have just said the first word of the Bible, and it means literally in the beginning. So, the earth was without form and void. Now, people wonder, oh, wait a minute, Genesis 1:2 says the earth was without form and void, and does that mean that it was here? And does that, better yet, help us with 4.5 billion years? Maybe the bedrock is that old, maybe that helps us. Does that solve our problem, Stan? And the answer is nope, not at all. Because the age of the earth has to do with rocks that are found in between the fossil layer, like this. Here's the issue. Lava flows in between the fossil layers date to millions of years in the standard model. And that's a problem because we think all the fossils and everything there was from the flood. So it should not date to millions of years, it should date to the period of the flood. We'll have some things to say about that, but just keep that in mind. And that's why the bedrock down below the fossil record doesn't help us with a 4.5 billion year old, because the millions of years is up higher. Make sense? Or confusing? Okay, so back to this. This is really cool. I love these words. I'm not a Hebrew expert, please don't think I am, but what I do know of Hebrew is fun. And here we go. The earth is without form and void. In Hebrew, it's the earth was tohu and bohu. I just love those words. They're just fun. Tohu and bohu. Now, u on the end of any word means no. So, no bow, no toe. Okay? What literally that means is no form, no fill. So, formless and filledless. Okay, right? Whoops. Okay, again, it's thrown off. So, watch what happens in the way God creates. The first 3 days he forms, and the next days he fills those forms. So that's kind of interesting. Dealing with the tohu and bohu, fixes the tohu and bohu. And then, of course, on Sabbath, rests from everything. Okay, so now God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God said the light was good, and divided the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And okay, evening and morning, day one. Quite literally in Hebrew, evening and morning, day one day. Now, watch this. First of all, the word for day is Yom. Yom Kippur, right? Yom means day. Day of Atonement, Day of Covering. Yom means day. Can Yom ever mean more than a 24-hour period? Yes, it can. Sometimes it can, because in Genesis 2 it says, in the day that the Lord created the heavens and the earth. Obviously it took longer than a day, so a day can sometimes mean a general period. Like my son tells me about me sometimes. He said, Dad, you live back in the day. I don't think it's a compliment. So back in the period, right? But when Yom is combined with a number, as it is in 283 times in the Bible, 283 times it means a 24-hour day. When it is also combined with evening and morning. Evening and morning always means a 24-hour period too, the way this is constructed, not the Daniel way, evenings and mornings. So evening and morning, 39 times. So it's quite literally saying as clear as it knows how in Hebrew, we're talking about a day like we have now. So let's take a look, and there's even more support for that. So notice this quote from a Hebrew expert at Oxford. He agrees that the words used in Genesis 1 refer to a series of 6 days, which were the same as days of 24 hours we now experience. And he says that he knows of no professor of Hebrew at any leading university who would say otherwise. I say this because whenever I talk about the age of the earth, somebody who's familiar with the Bible will come up with a few questions that will basically show their thinking. Maybe God used day in some symbolic sort of way, as meaning great periods of time, maybe even millions of years. So they're looking for that kind of flexibility in the way the words are worded. The point is this. Did you know that in Hebrew they can write in a grammatical form to show sometimes they're talking as prose or poetry? Now, your Psalms, you'll look at the way that it's indented in your Bible when it's doing Psalms. You'll see it's in a different form than when it's just a story, which is all put together in paragraphs just running, right? Okay, whereas the Psalms, you have this indentation for each line. That's because it's Hebrew, it's showing that it's talking prose or poetry. Now, the book of Genesis is written not in poetic form. It's written in narrative form, which is another way of saying they're talking about a story that was historical. They're just giving you the story. It's not written as a symbolic sort of tale with, you imagine whatever you want, or not a musical thing or a poetry thing. It was meant to be understood literally. So I say that, folks, if you want to make it into something that is more symbolic, that would be up to you. But the original writer makes it clear he's talking about a literal story. At least the form that is used is that. Now God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs and seasons, for days and years. Then God made two great lights, the great light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Incidentally, where were you guys last year at the time of the eclipse? Did you see 100% here or not? Were you in the band? You didn't have to go anywhere. You had 100% right here.
Right.
For how long?
About 20 seconds or so.
A couple minutes? Salem. Half of Portland went to Salem. I'm not kidding. We were toward Madras. We were out over Mount Hood area, further east of there, and got into the max zone. And I got a great picture. It's on my iPhone.
I do too.
Just the screensaver thing. So anyway, great, amazing thing. Life-changing. I would say it's close to that. It was that impressive. We had pulled over to the side of the road. I had a couple of pastors, And there was 4 of us all told with my wife. And we were pulled over. There was about 100 people where we were, off the side of the road, maybe 30 cars. We're all there. Somebody would occasionally be calling out the time. 2 minutes! You know, like that. So we're all getting ready, and we're starting to watch things get darker. And it was like, yeah, look at this. This is pretty interesting. You know, you feel it's getting colder. It's getting colder. Weird. Anyway, sure enough, okay, 10 seconds. I've been in partials before. I'd never been in a total. So anyway, I'm kind of like, here we go, you know. And at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow! Am I right? Wow! It was such a wow that everybody there, Christian and who knows what else in the mix, broke into applause. And you know what I was thinking at the time? Lord, that was for you. I wish they all knew. You did that. For God creates these things for signs and seasons, for things to notice in the sky. And frankly, for a moment, all of our thinking was away from what we were going to do the next day. We didn't care about anything else. We were totally transfixed by this great event and looking at, frankly, well, everybody didn't understand it this way, but what God can do. What?
All my night
Your night lights came on. It was a wow experience. We only had, it was too short. It was way too short. So if God hasn't come, Jesus hasn't come in 6 years, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Amen. Just see you there, brother. So I told my brother-in-law lives in Dallas, I said, we are coming. This is a 6 year ahead of time reservation we're making. But we're going to see, because you get 4 minutes instead of 2. Oh, man. So anyway, it's amazing. The sky is full. So the lesser light to rule the night. Okay, guess what it says now? Okay, and incidentally, after that it says day 2. You know what it is in Hebrew? It's second day, not day 2. Second, it's a cardinal number. So second day, the first day is using the word echad in Hebrew. That's the word for one that's not always the word they use. It's the one that means, and the 2 shall become echad, flesh. So 2 becoming 1. So the evening and morning become 1. And then when it gets to the second day, it says second day, as in second complete 1. Do you get it? It's pretty cool. The wording there tells you about it. We're making a complete second day. It's interesting, evening and morning. Okay, so why did God create the sun on the 4th day? Have you ever wondered that? There's light and dark, and then the sun comes along on the 4th day. How can that be if there was light? Anybody got an answer on that? The glory of the Lord was the light. Does God need the sun for light? Here's the thing, and this used to bother me, and then I remember it was just like a light went off. It was like, that was a funny pun intended, I guess. Light went off. Hey, we're talking who here? God. Oh yeah, I guess he doesn't need the sun for light. I guess he can do what he wants. Have you looked at the universe lately? Is he restricted in any way? I don't think so. But here's something that's interesting. Throughout history, the number one thing that tends to get worshipped besides God has often been the sun. In fact, I can start up a pagan religion very simply, and this is how I would do it. I would find a young man that would be available, like this young man right here, and I'd say, listen, would you please find out what's going to make the gods happy or the sun god happy? You find out. You take care of it for us. We'll pay your way. You won't have to work a day of your life. Just keep them off our back, okay? Keep them happy. I just illustrated how a pagan religion starts. Because we want the sun to be happy. Please come up every day, grow our crops and everything. And that's how, and so pagan religions try to figure out some way to keep this all going and all working. So they take precautions, I guess. I don't know. But okay, so it's almost like God is saying, you know what? I don't even need the sun for light. I'll just make it when I want it. 4th day. That's good. I'll put it in. It's kind of like he's moving the sun down a few steps purposely in the order of creation to kind of devalue its significance. And I find that interesting, over against a reaction to maybe anticipating it's going to be thought of as a god. Yeah. No, it's a light bulb. Incidentally, you'd be surprised how much this sun is mentioned today among evolutionists talking about life, the formation of life, and it gets really close to sounding like the sun is the creator. Real close to, boy, we wouldn't be here without the sun. Boy, the sun does this. Boy, sun, sun, sun. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's just interesting. So, there shall be no night there. They need no lamp nor light of the sun, for the Lord God gives them light. I guess. If he needs the light bulb, he'll have it. But anyway, so, age of the earth. How old was everything that Friday? That first Friday? If you brought in instruments and you measured a few things, if you looked at the horse and saw how long the tooth was, how long, how old, was there fruit on the trees? So the world was created not with a baby Adam and Eve. The world was created with what we would call a parent age. Now, I remember talking to a young creation scientist about this, a believer like me. But anyway, I said, if you guys had rolled out your instruments and measured everything on that Friday, you would have gotten wrong readings. And he thought about that, and he said, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's tricking us, kind of thing. And he actually was visibly bothered by that. And I said, oh, come on, give it a break. It's God. He can do what he wants. Anyway, anyway, everything was mature and ready to go. A question might be, why did it take God so long? You ever think of that? Why did it take God so long to make everything? Why didn't he simply say, and let there be everything? Boom. So why does he take 7 days? Well, that's a very good question, a very good answer. He wanted to. I'll go with that. But yeah. Because, and that's a good way to put it, but how about he was creating time for us to mark as well? Check this out. Now, and we all know that the year and the month and the day are all driven by measuring, but of course the week is different. We don't have anything for the week. God bless the seventh day. Because for a moment you had Hebrew heads on. Remember, blessed. God is making that day better than any other day. Right? If it's blessed with Hebrew understanding. Put a blessing in the seventh day and sanctified it, set it apart, made it different, special, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. Now, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rested. What does the word rest mean? Okay, how many of you can read music? Okay, good. What is that? Huh? What? Come on, look at the notes. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Yes, okay. This is Beethoven. And I'm going to give you the best illustration I know of the Hebrew word Shabbat or Sabbath. It is not that. God did not need to sleep or take a nap. God paused. Take a look. What does that mark there and that mark mean? Those are stop. Those are rest marks. Now, does it mean at that point you go curl up on your couch and you pull up a pillow and you take a nap? Okay, thank you. Boy, that would really ruin the music too, wouldn't it? But anyway, you pause for a count, right? And then you keep going. That is exactly what the Hebrew word Shabbat means. You pause. So quite literally, it is 7/7 time, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, stop. Now, as far as I can tell, they're not called the 10 recommendations. They're called the 10 commandments because God knew we need to be told, no, stop. You guys are wound, you're busy, stop for a day. And then picks it up. You can pick it up again at the end of that, but stop, because that's what I did. I stopped, and I enjoyed the day with you. So anyway, 7 time. So now, you know about Sabbath, and just real quickly, the planetary week. In the days of Vespasian, that would be first century, a Roman soldier wrote that Vespasian attacked the Jews on the day of Saturn, Saturn's day, because on that day it was forbidden for them to do anything serious, and defeated them. So even in Roman days, Saturn's day was the Sabbath, the Jewish Sabbath. That's from those days. The continuous 7-day cycle that runs throughout history, paying no attention whatsoever to the moon and its phases, is a distinctly Jewish invention. That is another way of saying the week that the world knows as a 7-day cycle is strictly from the creation story. No other source for it. And scholars agree. Now, here is, and people will say, well, didn't the calendar change? There was a time when the calendar changed and we lose the weekly cycle. So here is the biggest calendar change in Europe when we went, most countries went from the what to the what calendars? Let's see if you know. From the which one? Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. Very good, which was a better calendar, could allow for leap years, and because spring day was moving through the years and they need to get back online. So here's the month that you wanted to be paid by salary. Okay, here's the month. So here they caught up by 11 days to where they should be, and you will notice that there was no change in the weekly cycle, Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday followed Wednesday, but this would have been a good month to be paid by salary. Okay, so back to this. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to pass through this. You remember this, the 3 kinds of rocks, and you remember sedimentary rock is the most common. Now, how old can you tell a rock to be? Wouldn't it be nice if they came stamped? What's that rock? Plymouth Rock. Okay, yes. Somebody went to the trouble of carving 1620 in a rock there at Plymouth where the Pilgrims landed. Wouldn't it be cool if each rock just simply had a date on it? No. How do they tell? Well, oh boy. Okay, now, a little science here to try to get the blood flowing in between here and here, and a little activity. So here we go, radiometric dating. The idea of how old rocks are is based on radiometric dating. That's the measurement of the decay of rocks, because everything decays. Have you looked in the mirror? Everything decays. And it starts off with 3 basic ideas. Number one, the rate is constant. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do to speed it up or slow it down. Number 2, initial ratios are known between what's called the parent isotope, or the parent element, and the daughter that it gets decayed into. So moms get decayed into daughters for science purposes here. Okay? And then rock samples have been chemically and physically isolated. So a closed system, nothing gets in, nothing gets out, it's sealed. Okay, those are assumptions, all of which are very challenging. Number 1, here we go. So the idea of you start off with them, and this is only igneous rocks, rocks that were liquid, that hardened into solid. At the moment, because when it's liquid, it loses stuff, but when it becomes hardened, then you can start measuring how long it's been hard. That's the idea. Pardon me?
Would that be like magma?
Like magma, like lava. Far and away the most common is lava, magma. Yes.
And that's where they go with carbon dating?
No. Hold on. Carbon dating is for something else. But it's all in the same category. So we're talking about when that rock became solid, it starts to decay into its daughter. And this is the daughter up here. So mom, or the parent, used to be everything. Now it's becoming less and less and less and less and less as the daughter becomes bigger and bigger. And this, how long it takes for mom to become daughter, half of mom to become daughter, is called a half-life. Very good, class. So that's half-life, decaying parent isotopes. So this is the idea. That's one half-life. Another half-life would be, now it's 1/4 of what it used to be, and so forth, right on down the line. And that's the idea. Now, this looks great on paper, but when we apply it, that's where the problem is. Okay, now, you asked about carbon. Oh, back up. No, this is... First of all, when I show this next slide, I would appreciate a few oohs and ahs, because it took me a day to make this slide. Okay, you ready? Get ready. Here we go. If I have to fish for compliments, I'm not above that. Okay, here we go. Ooh. Wow, thank you. Thank you. Okay, hey, you know what? It's not even staying up. What happened here? Okay, there's another example of this computer not taking my slides properly. Okay, look at that. Where did it go? Okay, forget the applause. It's not working very well. So anyway, it was more than a font issue. There is an atom there. You see it, don't you? And there's an atom right here. You see it, don't you? Okay, anyway, imagine here with me. So we're going to go back and do it again. Okay, there we go. Come on, go. Okay, we got a slow computer. Here we go. Slow, go. Okay, here's a neutron coming across outer space, hitting nitrogen. Bam! Knocks a proton off. And here we get carbon-14. Carbon-14 is made and gets into the trees. Okay. Anyway, that's what happens. Carbon-12 is usually the way carbon is found. Carbon-14, heavy carbon, is made only in the air. It's the only place you can get it. And it's being made every day by things coming from outer space and hitting nitrogen and making nitrogen into carbon-14. Carbon-14 gets into the plants, which get munched on by little critters. And then those poor little critters stop eating anymore and therefore doesn't get any more carbon-14 in them. And so afterwards, you can measure how long the critter has not eaten carbon-14, and therefore how long ago it lived. And you can tell carbon-14 versus carbon-12. This is how you measure how long ago something lived. Now, carbon-14 is only used for organic things that used to be alive. It can only be used for thousands of years. So when you hear carbon-14 dating, it is not part of the problem. It's lava, it's magma, it's millions of years dating. Carbon-14 has a half-life of 57,000 years. 5,700 years, 5,700 years makes it too short to be useful. I'm going to pass by this, but these are people that actually work with carbon-14 and say that, frankly, there's a lot of problems with carbon-14. And notice they say the accepted dates are actually selected dates. These are people who are professionals at it, and they admit there's problems. The growth, these are really agitated people. But anyway, real problems. Accepted dates are selected dates. In other words, they'll give you 3 dates of a sample. Which one would you like to use? Well, we were thinking that date would probably be the closest to what we want. Okay, that's the date. So, you see, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, so, we'll get to my favorite. Let's get to the millions of years thing. And there I am, illustrating millions of years. Because I was there. Anyway, I'm going to tell you now the coolest story ever. And I got to do something that every red-blooded American male wants to do once in their lifetime. Play in lava. Am I right? Who would want to play in lava? Oh, come on, guys. I got to play in lava in Hawaii. Well, not play in lava, because you can't play in lava. Lava is not helpful. But anyway, here's the story. Went to, and of course, ladies, here's where I get some points. Took my wife, Cindy, to Hawaii for anniversary. 25th anniversary. That's a good thing, right? Points? Okay, good. So therefore, on that day, we go over to the volcanoes that have been going pretty much steady for 50, 60 years, nonstop, making lava. Now, I went over to the place, we drove over to the place where had to park because the old lava flows had covered the road, couldn't go any further. Parked there, went to a kiosk with a ranger in it, a woman, and I went over to there and I asked her, can I go up to where the lava is coming out? Now, what was I expecting to hear?
No.
Duh, no. Instead, she said this, sure, just be careful. It's right up there at the start where to go. Told me where to go, and I said, thank you very much, and off I went, and I started traipsing over, it seemed like miles, of these old lava flows, old flows. Along the way, I pick up a very long stick, and I finally get up there to where, sure enough, it is coming out of the side of this hill, this vent, and is slowly oozing out. There I am, leaning over with my stick, and I've got the stick. Have you heard lava is hot? It's very hot. I mean, I totally get the fiery furnace story in Daniel. I got this vivid experience now. Anyway, so I had this cup that I was bringing along for this occasion of scientific study. Anyway, I put it on the rock, and I got my stick, and I'm putting it in the lava, and I'm trying to get the lava to stick to the stick. And so anyway, I'm not going to use my hand to scoop, and I found out in a big hurry I could not get close enough to do this. So anyway, I said, if I'm going to get any in there, it's off the end of this stick. So I'm putting it in the fire, it catches on fire, drops, catches on fire, drops, catches on fire, ooh, there's a little bit. And sure enough, I was able to poke it into the cup and had my water bottle. Now there is a nice illegally collected sample of lava from a national park. So anyway, and supposedly, according to tradition, Pele, the goddess of the volcano there, is very unhappy that I took this away. Fortunately, she hasn't caught up with me yet, but that's good. So someday, because this began aging the day that this became solid. I know the date, I was there when this rock was born. So someday I'm going to break off a piece and send it to a laboratory and ask them, tell me how old you believe this to be. And we'll see what they say. That might be interesting. Yeah. So guys, you can do this too. And total fun. I always wanted to do that. I really did. And incidentally, there's some of it up close coming out. In fact, there was a place where I saw a crack in the rock where I could see this river flowing right by, just going full speed toward the ocean. It's amazing stuff. Amazing. I had tennis shoes on, and they got pretty hot because you're walking on hot ground. They didn't melt. They didn't melt. But I kept moving along. You know.
They said that when Coelacanth was erupted, that there would be fissures of just
Yes,
hot lava
fissures,
just
yes, yeah.
breaking up and
It's going crazy right now. It hasn't done that in years, and they're still trying to figure it out, what they're doing.
I was there when I was up at the top of that mountain and could look down and see it boiling down there.
Oh, that's awesome. You had a great view.
That was neat.
That's great.
Back in the 70s.
You got to go to Hawaii. This is a soft sell, folks. This should not be difficult. You got to go to Hawaii. Anyway, so let's keep going. So the idea is potassium-40 is becoming argon-40. Argon is a gas. So potassium is breaking down into a gas. That's one of the reasons why when it becomes a solid rock, not liquid anymore where the gas can bubble out, now the gas is going to be in the rock, collected in the rock, solid rock. Although you might wonder about that too, but anyway, that's the idea. So it has a very long half-life of 1.25 billion years, so it's measurable for millions of years. That's the idea. Now, here are some of the more commonly used methods of dating for millions of years. Here's the half-lives, but potassium to argon is used over 80% of the time. This might be a little smaller now, but it's still far and away the most common thing, and that's lava, measuring lava for age of the earth. So now take a look, and again, the idea is lava flows in between fossil layers, which gives us millions of years dates. And sometimes, yes, sometimes this might be 30, this could be 20, and this could be 10 million years. But it's not always so, but take a look. Now here's a famous example used in these issues, and that is the Uinkaret Plateau near the Grand Canyon. Here is a lava flow that they decided to date that came right down the side of this old canyon here, and they decided to do several methods, including potassium argon, and then rubidium strontium isomer, and then lead isomer. And notice the difference. My means millions of years. So here you got something that's anywhere from 10,000 years to 17 million years. I want you to understand the discrepancy there. That's huge. 10,000 years to 17 million years and 6 different dates of the same rock. Got those kind of responses. And then when they used other dates, they were on average quite a bit different too from each other, including one that's 2.6 billion years old. That's ridiculous. That's way too old for anything to be dated. So potassium argon, and then just for the fun of it, they dated this rock, this lava flow, which is clearly much older than all of them because it's under all these layers. And this is the dates they got here. On average, these were much younger than these dates of this rock. How can that be? So, and it can't. So the point is there's inconsistencies. Looks good on paper. When you try it in the field, it doesn't always seem to hold up. Let me give you a couple of other examples. Mount St. Helens lava. What's wrong with this date right here? 86. The eruption was when? 1980. But you know what? This is correct because the lava dome started to reform in a little bit of a burp, a little hiccup in 1986. So a little lava came out in 1986. So that's correct. And when they dated that 1986 lava in these different locations, they got anywhere from 500,000 to 3 million years old. Okay? Wrong. Anyway, here's some other things. For instance, when they have sandstone that's clearly formed around something that they could date, like this wood fragment, they found a wood fragment inside a look how old of that the sandstone is. They found this wood to date to 33,000 years old. That's quite a discrepancy. How about this? Here's a lump found from a stump, basically, from a Jurassic period deposit, and it's very young compared to the rock that it's found in. That can't be, obviously. So there's problems. Issues for dating the Earth. How about living fossils? We love living fossils. Coelacanth. How many of you have heard of the coelacanth, famous fish? Coelacanth is a funny looking thing with a couple of legs. They thought, okay, here's these fins down here. And they thought, ooh, 400 million years, I'll bet you anything, given enough time, those fins are going to become legs. And it's going to walk out of the ocean and evolve. So they're all excited to show this weird-looking fish at the British Museum. And right as they were showing it at the British Museum as an extinct fossil, they caught one off the coast of South Africa. Now, this lady here was a local museum director. She heard that they'd caught this fish. She ran down there to try to get the fish. Before she got there, they had cleaned the fish. So they gutted it. So nothing on the inside, but the outside was still there. And she had a picture taken of it, and it was a coelacanth. No question about it. A coelacanth. Okay, then they've been finding more. And they found now hundreds of them. Now, it helped when they said, oh, incidentally, if you find one of these fishermen, we'll pay you money. So they started finding them and kept collecting them. They've even videoed these swimming at the bottom of the area around there in the shores, the water, the bays. And guess what they found out that those fish are doing with those fins? They're swimming with the fins. They're not hopping. They're not walking. They're swimming. Okay, just thought I'd point that out to you, because they thought that's what they must surely be doing with them. Okay, so they are finding 400 billion-year-old fish. Now, you ever seen this crab before? this crab looks like it's an alien crab or something. It's just the weirdest looking thing. But they have it exactly in the same form without any changes, 400 million years old, supposedly, an Ordovician fossil, absolutely identical. This ant, they thought, was extinct. In fact, they called it the Martialis Heorica. I'm not sure quite how to pronounce the last part. But this, they thought, was the most primitive ant found on the planet. Found it in many fossil forms, and then they found a live one. Oops. And it means ant from Mars in Latin. So, Martian ant. And the point is they keep finding fossil, living examples of things they thought only existed as ancient fossils. This, ginkgo tree leaves, I've got a ginkgo tree up here, leaf fossil that you can take a look at. This is a great story here. This is a handsome young ranger in an Australian forest, national park near Sydney, called the Willamette National Forest. He said to his supervisors, he said, you know, I'm going to go explore a canyon over here. It's a canyon that you couldn't get down to without a rope. So you lowered himself down in the canyon. So he did that. He went off to bring back a report of what he found there. Well, he did that, but while he was in the canyon, he saw a tree he'd never seen before. And he took pictures, brought back some samples, and guess what he discovered? He discovered an extinct tree. A tree that had not shown up except in fossils that were supposedly tens of millions of years old, up to 200 billion years old, the Willamette pine. He found a grove of somewhere between, I think, 80 and 100 trees. It's the only known natural place in the world. And but they've been, because it's very prolific in terms of pine cones, they've been growing these trees and selling them. And for a couple of years, I had one. I had one in a case, you know, in a pot like this, and took it around when I talked about age of the earth things. Here's a living fossil. And I ended up donating it to the University of Idaho's rare plant thing they have there in the agriculture department collection. And they told me whenever I needed it for a lecture, just come in and take it, and then just bring it back when you're done with it. So I did that once. Second time I went back, it was gone. And because there was a change in personnel, nobody knew what happened to it. So anyway, I want to get another one, but someday. But 200 million years old, and absolutely no net evolution whatsoever in this plant, if they think it's really that old. So very interesting, beautiful tree, and yeah, living fossil. Oh, you heard about the footprints in the wrong place. How can that be? So we got this messing with the time frame of how we date the Earth. So some fossils are in the wrong place. Issues for dating the Earth include such things as miracles of preservation. We have some things, we got some leaves that are actually foldable, and that's kind of interesting. Fossil leaves. You heard about this. Remember I told you about the different things that they're now finding because of the soft tissue they found here? Proteins have been found in these since 2005, and now that they're looking everywhere, you can see all kinds of different things that they have found, including, incidentally, DNA in one. It's a little bit controversial. DNA breaks down immediately. It's very hard to explain DNA. Incidentally, if you wondered about the Jurassic Park basic idea of using cloning from DNA, if you wondered about that, is it possible? Maybe. But what's really possible, frankly, is the mammoths. Have you heard about the mammoths? Harvard University is making this a project for them. And they have found DNA in frozen mammoths in Siberia and Alaska. Frozen mammoths, which means the DNA is in pretty good shape. So it is very conceivable that someday you will see a mammoth baby coming from another kind of elephant, mom, as a surrogate, and we just might see mammoths again someday. Now you might wonder, is that stepping over the line scientifically or morally? I'll leave that to you, but it's still you watch for that, they may come. All right, so, okay, more well-preserved dinosaurs. Okay, you saw this, a nodosaur. Uniformitarianism. If you use that to do other things, how about some of these then? The erosion of continents. Let's use just basic rates today. Okay, that's what you use. We'll use that too. The rates of erosion of continents. If we go with current rates of erosion, The continents should have worn into the ocean several times by now in the millions of years they've supposedly been here. Natural gas pipe, look at this, filled in rather quickly, very quickly. Coal, petrification, stalactites, opal, oil, all of these things that was thought to take years and years, we've actually found can be done very quickly. If somebody was asking me about oil reserves here, how can you explain all the oil that's in the world today, under the world today? And you can't using standard methods. But if something covered up a whole lot of organic material in a hurry and buried it deeply and cooked it over time because of the heat of the earth, that's how you get oil. And that's how you get a lot of oil if it covered up a world full of animals and plants and so forth.
Organic material that you're talking about?
Yes.
I heard that one said it was like buddies. It was like organic material as buddies.
Bodies, okay.
Bodies of animals and humans.
There is some discussion as to how much is animal or not in oil. But as far as I can understand, I think the vast majority must be animal. That's where you get oil. I mean, we're oilier than plants, that's for sure. No, nothing personal. Take a look at Mammoth Hot Springs. Ever been to Mammoth Hot Springs? Look at the rock right here forming almost as you watch it. This is calcium carbonate, and this is being deposited with hot water. And you can see calcium carbonate come in a hurry. That's really important because when you look at stalactites, and I've got a stalactite. Finally, somebody gave me a stalactite. I said, oh, this is awesome. They cut and polished one end of it. This is a slice from a stalactite. I don't know if you can collect these anymore like this one was clearly collected. So an old specimen, let's go with that. Anyway, it's clearly formed quickly in the middle. This is a very fast formation, and then there's been a couple of add-ons later. If you go to Carlsbad Cavern, let's say, and a ranger is telling you about the stalactites hanging, they'll say something like, this stalactite took 50,000 years or 100,000 years to form. And there'll be a little water dripping off of it going boop, boop, like that, and you're watching this, and they would be right if it's always been going boop. But if it's been going quickly with lots of hot water, as you saw, because this stuff here, oops, come back. That stuff there is the same stuff. That's calcium carbonate. That's what makes stalactites. So it becomes, when hot water becomes liquid very quickly, then it saturates the water. If the water comes up against the edge of something, it will deposit it on there and leave that residue. And that's what this all is, residue, basically. And that's what this is, residue. Those are all residues left by water with minerals in it. So point is, if it's done quickly, that changes everything. Okay, now I'm going to finish off with a theology. Theology that impacts you and me, because we're talking about decaying, folks, and guess what? We're all decaying. I'm going to share with you a thought that will just brighten your day. Here it is. Do you know what aging is? You're smiling already, anticipating what I'm going to say. Aging, I'm not talking about maturing. I'm talking about post-mature aging. Do you know what it is biologically? It's incremental dying. Have a nice day. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. It is the body God has designed us with has every repair system in place. It's just those repair systems can't quite keep up. It's kind of like there's something wrong. And the repair systems, incidentally, evolution has no answer for why there's death. Evolution has no reason for why there's death. They think, oh, it's to make way for new species. No. Remember, the purpose of life is to make babies and pass on DNA. That is the purpose they all state. That's why animals live. That's why we're here, to make babies, pass on our DNA. That's an eternal life. I had one person write that on a note to me. Doesn't it give you comfort To know that your ancestors continue your genetic material on into the future? That was their eternal life. That was their salvation. Anyway, that's another thing. So, anyway, what is aging? Aging is things not quite living anymore. For instance, this color here, this white. Literally the mechanism that made color in my hair for that one follicle or these different follicles died. It's dead now. It can't make color anymore. So it comes out colorless, i.e. white. So that's a part that died in me. That's what's going on all over, frankly. Pardon me? So, what? Yeah. Well, sorry. I mean, this is bad news but don't worry. Aging is very popular. Everybody's doing it. So the point is, but evolution has no explanation for death, because if evolution could evolve an animal that never died, it could live and keep making babies, the purpose of life, forever without any stop. That would be the ultimate effective production of evolution. Doesn't happen. Incidentally, rest, sleep. There's no evolutionary explanation for that, because as we all know, we're at risk if we sleep. Some saber-toothed tiger can come get us. Here's another thing. Wow, I'm having fun with this. Biomorphic sex. In other words, two forms, male and female. That is a horrible way of passing on genetic material. As we all know, if we could just have one, you wouldn't need another. And they just multiply and make babies without that second. So hard to explain in evolution, very hard, because it's inefficient. So the point is this: we were made to need fellowship, to be with others, and that's how you produce life and so forth. We were made to mature, but something's going on with our mechanism that's not able to keep it up. And we need rest. And God said, I want you to rest. So anyway, He designed us that we have to rest. Anyway, it's interesting how God made us. Evolution has no answers to any of those things. Bad news is we're all aging. So check this out. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but at the point of a gun. You will now, creation, you will now decay. But because of Him who subjected it in hope, it's temporary. Amen. Because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption, for we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. I talked with John Baldwin, who is an emeritus professor of theology at Andrews Seminary, and he's really into creation, really loves this whole subject. We've talked a lot about this stuff, the theologies involved. And I said, have you ever considered this as talking about the rocks too? No, he hadn't thought about that, because it says the whole creation is groaning under decay. Everything is groaning or feeling the burden of decay from sin and the effects of sin. And God has subjected it temporarily. That's the good news. The decay cycles. Someday, the whole creation will be delivered from it like a birth pang. Okay, that's good news. So someday we're going to be in a place where there is no more decay. And I like that. And that is with Jesus when He says, lay up for yourselves treasures where? Whoops. Oh, went past it. It went past it. Okay, let's do it again. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where there is neither biological nor chemical decay of any kind. Lay up for yourselves treasures there that don't go away. Everything in this life goes away. Everything. I followed a pastor in a church whose saying I loved. I heard about it. He said this: we're all gathering together our personal burn piles in this life. You follow what he's saying? Everything that I value of stuff is going to be my burn pile, because it's all going to burn up. Can't take anything with us. Only thing you can even come close to taking with you is other people if you can help prepare them. That's where the treasures are. So the point is this: decay. Decay is a part of sin in this world. Rocks, everything else is falling apart, you and I. But that's temporary. That's temporary. I talked to a creation physicist who's an absolutely brilliant man, and I asked him once at the end of a lecture, I said, do you have a concept of what may have physically happened in the world at the time sin entered? And he lit up like he was waiting for that question. He said, why, yes, I do. You know, okay. I think that when sin entered the world, there was something like a force field, a force impact that shattered the nature. What is decay? Okay, here's a good question theologically. What is the wrath of God? Explain to me the wrath of God. What does it look like? The wrath of God. Remember, the wrath of God killed Jesus on the cross. You want to know what the wrath of God is? It's described in Romans 1. He says it's revealed now in the sons of man. Okay? And this is what it is. Wrath of God. I'm going to demonstrate. I just got goosebumps at that. I don't want God to go away. God steps back. And he honors decisions. Isn't that it? Take a look. Romans 1. For the wrath of God is revealed now in the sons of man. He's separated from Jesus. The sons of man now see it. Romans 1, it says he gave them up to their passions. Gave them up and let them go. That's the wrath of God revealed. So this is what Jesus felt at the cross. Where did you go? Where did you go? And he felt what we would feel at the end of time. And that separation, that distance, that aloneness, it killed him. He couldn't take it. So that's the decay. That's the wrath of God. The wrath of God is being felt in this earth because at the Garden of Eden we asked him to leave, and he did a little bit. And he pulled back, and things start to fall apart. Things decay. The sustaining power of God, when it's pulled back, things start to entropy. It's just, to me, a very interesting subject, and I could go on and on about it. You can see it's interesting to me, but it's a powerful thing. The wrath of God. It's not burning somebody in eternity. Goodness sakes. Makes him into a Hitler-type person. No, he's just simply honoring the freedom that he gave to everybody and stepping back. Do you agree with this? Is this an amen thing? This is what it is. Anyway, so we're seeing decay in the natural world, but it's partly because God stepped back. And we see it even in the rocks. Any questions? Yes, on any subjects now. We'll open it up and we'll wind up here too. In light of this issue's last statement. Yes. Tree of life. Yes, and of course the tree of life was there in the Garden of Eden, and what is it now in the new future? And I don't know, is it symbolic? Is there something substantive to it? I don't know. Is it simply an act of faith where you're constantly showing God, I look to you as the source, I'm being obedient, I'm eating from the tree? I don't know. I don't understand eternal life. I don't understand the body that we'll get. What kind of body this would become. I have no concept of that, because everything I've lived with, everything I've ever known has an end. Everything has an end. So what does have something that has no end? Although, I have to say this, I think we were created with the difficulty of imagining us not existing. I was at my wife's cousin's house, and the cousin had a little girl. And I remember distinctly, we were all gathered around the table, all yapping about family things and history and stuff that had happened. And I'm watching the little girl, her name was Christy. She was watching us talking, and I saw she was listening to what was being said about things that happened before she was born. And so I asked her, Christy, do you understand what it means to be before you were born? And she looked at me and she said, I was very little then. There's no concept of not existing, so there's something about that too. But anyway, I don't know. And that's just one of the many things I have questions about. Yes?
In a DVD and a galvanized pipe. This professor in Texas,
Yes.
an Adventist professor, took the galvanized pipe with with water and put some wood in it and tightened it real tight and put great pressure to it. And within only a few days, it turned into a rock, which proved when the layer of water broke, there was fossils immediately, which took out the 6 billion years. And you said for the day, why is there 7?
Yeah.
It's because God made it that way, because it says in Psalms 90, a day is 1,000 years. So God wants us to wait for the 7th 1,000, which could be next year.
Some people have thought the millennium represents a 7th 1,000 year period, and that's interesting. Very good. Sir, I think there was one over here too. Yes.
So, the evolutionists take the position that everything is a result of mutation.
Yes. I can kind of get that. And when you look at people descending from monkeys, I can see why they would think that.
Yeah, but what is the evolutionist model for the evolution of information?
Very difficult. And information
that
is...
has to be in place
Uh-huh.
before you have mutations.
You want the simple answer? The answer is it must have happened because here we are. Okay? Thank you. We got a microphone in case... is this being recorded audibly? Then that's why we need to record. So let's go with microphones. Yeah. Oh, I can hear fine. Isn't that all that matters? Over there. Hand. Let's go. Over there. Okay. Question over here, this handsome young man.
You said evolutionists questioned you about the time of at creation, that the numbers would be different.
That what would be different?
You said at the time of creation, if you were to go back in time, that those numbers would be different.
Oh, the apparent measurement, for instance, of how long would it take for this tree to grow fruit, and yet it already has mature fruit. And so the thought would be, how long is a tooth in the horse? Just general ways of measurement. The thought would be, maybe the world was looking older than it really did, than it really was. That's just apparent age. That's what I meant. Anybody else? I got some cool fossils up here you got to see. Oh, I need a female volunteer, young female volunteer. Do we have one? Can you be a volunteer for me? No, this young lady back here. Could she come forward? Could you help me with something? No, that's okay. You don't have to if you don't want to. Got any other young ladies? Okay, I will go with a young man if I don't have a young lady. You're not, well, okay. Come on up. Now, understand that immaturity can last a lifetime, so you might be young.
I have good lifetime.
Okay. All right, now, I want you to imagine, well, first of all, hold your hand out and look this way, like this. Okay? Look at the people. Okay? Hold your hand out. Whoa, stay. Stop. Hand out like this. Okay, now, what do you think you're holding?
Probably a pebble that is fossilized.
Fossilized is correct. It's fossilized dinosaur poop.
That's what I was going to say. Because I figured that's what it was.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll give you... Hey, I'll give you a dinosaur bone for that. I have a lot of fun with young ladies on that one, you can imagine maybe. But I am now going to show you my favorite fossil of all time. And here is the drama. Okay, I need a drum roll. That's what I need. I need a drum roll. Give me a drum roll. Okay, here we go. There it is. That's about as big as they get to. This is petrified dinosaur poop. Is this not a beautiful thing?
So how did that get fossilized?
just like anything else gets fossilized, buried, covered with water and sediment. Yeah, go ahead. The question is, how is this fossilized? Like anything else. There is a company in Utah that does nothing but send its workers traipsing across the desert looking for and collecting these and selling them to collectors like me. This is a whole field of study. Trust me, this is really a genuine coprolite from a dinosaur in Utah, which is where the big ones come from. And anyway, if you would like to hold this, y'all come on up and pat this. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's about that. Oof. Now, I have to tell you one other story about that. There is a superintendent that we have at our union conference office, Keith Waters. Keith Waters is in charge of the academies in the union. Anyway, he is into all this stuff too. We're competing in our collections. He's got himself a piece of coprolite, dinosaur poop, that's cut. So he's got this end and then the cut part flattened, but it's not polished. So anyway, when he's showing it to young people, he will say something like this. This is really a fine specimen, the mineral specimen here. Now, it's not polished yet. Well, you know what? If you wet this, you'll see the detail come out. It'll really be really clear. So he gets them to lick it so they can, oh, yeah, yeah, boy, look at that. He said, yeah. Then he tells them, you just licked dinosaur poop. And I have got to do that. I have got to do that. That is so good, so good. Anyway, you can see this can be a fun subject, can't it be? It's a lot of fun. Any other questions? If not, we'll let you come up forward. Yes, I'll be over here. Microphone. Hold it out.
So does this mean that this particular dinosaur was a plant eater?
Yes. See, those are easy. Any other questions? Trust me, it is a whole world. Coprolite. I got this from an advanced coprolite collector. He said it was the biggest that he had seen, and I believe it. I haven't seen any this big. So yeah, there's a certain look to them. It kind of looks like a cow pie out in the desert. Yeah. Pardon me? Yes. Sometimes they need to be dug out a little bit. It's somewhat revealed, but yeah. So how would you like to have on your resume? For 15 years, I collected poop. A journalist.